Good afternoon, John.
Hi, Marty. Marty Keller.
John Donovan. And good afternoon to those of you tuning in to the Intentional Living podcast. Welcome. This is a weekly conversation between myself and John Donovan, who is the developer of the Intentional Living process, where we talk about dealing with those behaviors that become troublesome and a challenge for us when we say we don't want to do something and we do it anyway. Like, as John, you often say, if you find yourself in the middle of an argument, you realize you're wrong and you keep arguing the same position
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
Um, or more severely, you find yourself feeling violence towards somebody and your head goes, don't do it. And you take a swat at somebody anyway.
Right.
So, what's going on with us that we seem to have our physical compulsions completely disconnected from our psychological reality or our present thoughts?
Yep.
And so what we do here on the Intentional Living podcast and what we've been doing for the past 5 years is analyzing where all this stuff comes from, and
hmm
more importantly, what we can do about it. Am I doomed to be run by my subconscious compulsions, or is there hope? Is there an opportunity to completely be with those in a completely different way than I've been trained to do? So that's what we do here on the Intentional Living podcast. And today, we want to talk a little bit about uh, reactivity and proactivity. And when you said to me what you wanted to talk about, I said, "What?" And you began to explain it. So you want to let us know what you've been thinking about or what you want to share today about that?
Yeah. The material that I have in intentional living um, is, I think, three-part. An explanation of obstacles to what you say you don't have and you really want. And that the way I explain it is I'm stuck in a pattern of behavior. I identify a different place I want to be, which in the patterns of behaviors are either in the context of codependency, addiction, or some type of avoidant behavior. And what I mean by that is I've identified in me rageaholic, which means that pattern of raising my voice or using emotional verbal violence to in my communication style. I used to say to get my point across. Um, um,
Yeah, but from the perspective of what we're talking about today, when you say rageaholic, don't you mean essentially having rage rise up in yourself in such a way that you can't control it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I go into some abusive behavior like screaming, yelling, slamming things.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe even
Okay.
hit somebody.
But even that. Um, so
That sounds like reactivity to me.
it is reactivity. And that's what I'm getting to. So I said three-part identifying what you want that you don't have and recognizing that you're in a pattern of behavior. And then understanding that as a human being, we're built to address um, danger or being uncomfortable, or it's our survival response: fight, flight, freeze, please, in order that we can survive. And then the other part is how do you get out of whatever pattern of behavior you find yourself in? Um, so I was recently um, getting ready for a group, and sometimes when I get ready for a group, I just get quiet and I go, okay, what is it I'm going to do? And I ask for help from my invisible means of support. My intent is to give the best information I can in the shortest amount of time. So in those moments of meditation or contemplation, sometimes something comes to me, and I thought, oh, what I'm explaining is how the reactive mechanism works. And in the 12 steps, they go, the simple goal in our 12-step program is to move from reactive to proactive, which is a space in between. Reactive is right now, real quick. Proactive, there's a space. And the proactive is usually in the best interest of myself and the people around me. Moving to resolution, asking for help, proactive, taking a breath, proactive. And so I haven't taken a picture of it yet, but I put on the board right above the survival mechanism, which is hooked into the alert mechanism. We call it reticular activate, alerts us to danger. And then the survival mechanism is the adrenaline that like goes to wherever it's needed so we can survive. That's reactive, reactive. And then over on the part I talk about the solution, I call it the accountability tree, that is proactive. I don't know how many times I heard in my 37 years, about the first 10, 12 years, it's yeah, let's move from reactive to proactive. And it's kind of like, go ahead. And I'm like, ah, okay. And what I heard was, don't be bad, or be a good boy, or be a good person, be a moral person,
Follow the rules.
follow the rules. And so okay, I'm gonna do that. And then I don't know, 15 seconds later, somebody says something, and I'm back into whatever. It's like, oh, okay. So in my body of work, intentional living, I've outlined the problem that I'm stuck in a pattern of behavior. I've outlined the mechanism that keeps me stuck, my survival mechanism keeps me stuck, and then I've um, outlined the way out, which is the accountability tree or telling the truth in the moment. And it just dawned on me that, and so I wrote on the board above survival mechanism, reactive, and then above on the tree, let me bring it up, proactive. And I'm going to get a picture of that, and it'll be my, oh, wait a minute. What? Let me stop this first. I didn't bring up the picture. So intentional living is what I call, or wanted early in my recovery. The only way I knew how to describe it was another level of recovery, something more than the 12 steps. Fantastic, fantastic. They've saved millions of lives. And for me, I needed something more. So I can bring it up now. Uh, Next time I'm going to have this prepared. Okay. So right above here, I put
Make
reactive.
it a little larger, okay?
Oh, sure. Thank you. Oh, I went the wrong way. Okay. And I want to thank everybody for their
There you
patience.
go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank
So
you.
I put in a different color, I think it was red, reactive. And then over here on the accountability tree, I put up here proactive. So see, I work real good on visuals, something I can see and kind of put together. And I'm going to incorporate that in the next picture I take of my board. Reactive, which ends me up in this results column somewhere, somehow in that pattern. Reactive is what I wanted to stop doing. Reactive is hooked into my survival mechanism, which means you're gonna do this or die, which is pre-thought. It happens before I'm thinking or even realizing what's going on. My cognitive mind has to catch up, and they've done studies 0.2, 3 seconds, I don't know, before it registers. So in my attempt to move from reactive to proactive, I try to think my way to proactive, but the reaction happens so quickly that I actually caught it after it happened. So I was in in a dilemma, like, okay, I don't know. And then what's wrong with me? I'd go into the self-criticism. Seems like real simple. Just don't be reactive. Oh, okay, I'll do that. But it's hooked into works from the subconscious, which is a lot quicker than the conscious thought. Um, and maybe people can just contemplate a little bit when they've found themselves reactive, maybe wonder at the action or see it after it happens. That's pretty much what I'm saying that was happening to me. So um, the intentional living material is a way to visually see and a way to experience proaction. And that happens in what I call the accountability tree here. Um, just saying the truth about this, about the results, where I find myself, blame free, judgment free. I'm going to stop there and see what thoughts you might have or questions you might have. Um, my goal is to introduce, and well, so I don't know who's watching, but if you've been watching for a while, this is like new information or a new way to put this puzzle piece together. I kind of see it as a 1,000-piece puzzle piece, and I got this piece right here, and I don't know where's it go. And there's the blank board. I got to put something down. I got to at least put colors together, something to start the process. And this helps me kind of see how this all works, and then gives me.
But while you were laying out the last part, what jumped into my mind was Nancy Reagan and
Yeah,
just say no.
just say no.
And
Come on.
from a logical perspective, from the perspective of a totally self-actualized, self-aware adult, maybe that works. But most of us aren't there yet. And so just say no to someone who is run by compulsions, by addictions, by fears, by um, the survival mechanism that you talk about, where
Yeah,
I might be oriented toward flight, I might be oriented toward freeze, I might be oriented toward fight or to
right.
please. It doesn't matter. All of those things, and we've discussed this in some of our more recent podcasts, all of these things are hooked into physical structures of the brain,
Yes,
and the physical structures of the brain are in charge,
right.
at least in terms of the mechanics of what we do, how we behave, how we create our lives, until
Mhm.
we can get to the accountability tree or a similar process by which we begin to understand and befriend those compulsions rather than fight them. Because
Right.
the trap that we find ourselves, the trap I found myself in is, and I remember the first time you taught me about no blame, no judgment. I remember the first thing I noticed was how full of blame and judgment I was.
Yeah.
The minute I sat down to work on the accountability tree, to own something that my judgment for years and years and years was that's bad. I'm a bad person, like you were saying earlier.
Hmm.
And if I say this out loud to the group here, they'll kick me out.
Right.
And so that just reinforces the compulsion.
Right.
If that's my way of quote thinking end quote.
Yeah.
And it
And
took
I want to go ahead.
Well, just to finish the thought, and just say it took me a long time to recognize what is said in the 12-step program that that's stinking thinking. That's thinking that was um, programmed by this emotional complex. Rather than being an independent thought that comes from my ability to step back and look at myself without blame or judgment, to look at myself, quote, objectively, end quote, dispassionately. Because when I'm there, when I'm in a dispassionate mode, then I'm separate from this compulsion. And
Yes.
and I now have the opportunity to do something different. Like you said, to have that separation that gives me that space to create something different from my compulsions.
Yes. And also in my judgment, I went out of into my critical mind away from the feeling tone or consequences of my behavior. Okay. So, how'd you put that? I'm wrong, or I'm bad, or how'd you put
Right.
that? Okay, the judgment. Now, when I own a truth, and just to explain a little bit about what I mean by truth is simply where I find myself in the action of, in the reaction mode. Okay, so it could be I'm an alcoholic. Just I'm an alcoholic. Now, before I got this awareness and before I had the experience of saying that, hi, my name's John, I'm an alcoholic, in a group of people who did not judge or blame me, I was able to feel the results of that truth, like heavy. And there weren't words to it. It was just a body sensation of, ah, ah. Now, before that, I would either deny I'm an alcoholic or I'm an alcoholic. There's something wrong with me. I got bad genes, and classify it in a way that made me wrong or made me try to be better, which is not in the consequences of the behavior. We're using homonym damn an alcoholic. Another true statement that I'm one of my avoidant behaviors. I talked about being a rageaholic, that reactive, screaming, yelling. Uh, well, when I own that truth, I'm a rageaholic. Well, the way I own it is that's mean. I'm mean. Instead of going to, oh, poor me or oh, stupid me, I'm mean to the point of cruelty. Took the breath, and in the breath, we're not in our judgmental mind. This feeling tone expressed in my body. And it wasn't words, but the realization of the distance between me and myself, from myself, maybe the distance from the person, the longing to connect. I felt that, and I didn't have words for it. It was a frequency in my body. That's what feelings are. Feelings, the way I'm talking about feelings, is different than the five senses: see, hear, taste, touch, smell. Touch is your feeling. You feel smooth, feel rough, feel hot, feel cold. That's from the outside. That feeling sense that we have enables us to examine the outside of us. The feeling I'm talking about, emotion feeling, comes from within us in our experience of action. So my action was violent, screaming, yelling, slamming doors. And when I said it, I vibrated at the consequences. I don't know how to say it. It wasn't that I had any thought in my head. I had a sense of relief, and it was like counterintuitive. It's like I should be like groveling on the ground, asking, begging, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." No, it was a upward move. It was proactive. I didn't know how to express it when I first started doing this. It was absolutely proactive instead of reactive. Oh, I'm stupid. Oh, I'm dumb. It was a sensing of the only way I can consequences, end result of the reaction, which I'm alone. I'm all by myself. I have nobody on my side, but all kinds of things. And in that sense, it was a, let's say meanness vibrates at, we'll pick a number, 50. When I go into truth or acceptance, I'm the mean's still there, but the sense of it is higher vibration. There's more. I'm in there. I'm in there somehow. In the blame and judgment, I'm still separating. I'm separating myself from myself, let alone the people I'm around by the behavior. Okay.
Can I offer
So
you a way that I'm hearing this?
yes, please.
So just perhaps another metaphor when you were describing that, you were reaching for the description of that sense feeling that occurs when I speak the truth.
Right.
And the image that came across to me was Atlas shrugged.
Oh,
I'm not carrying the world on my shoulders anymore. What
right.
must what must it felt like when he put the world off his shoulders?
Right. I was, I don't know, I was talking to somebody in jail, or I heard a story about somebody in jail. They had gone to jail for embezzlement. And he was telling a story about somebody asking him, how do you feel? And his response was relieved. well, wait a minute, you're doing 5 damn years. And you feel relieved. He goes, yeah, I don't have to carry that anymore. I may be in jail, but I'm free from that weight, whatever, that guilt, that,
And the
and
defensiveness and
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
hypervigilance.
yeah,
Isn't
yeah,
there a book called something like Drop the Rock that
yeah,
is, I mean, that's the same concept, isn't it?
yes. And I haven't read that book in the context of the intentional living information. When I say the truth, I'll give the example. I'm mean, I'm violent, I'm mean. That's dropping the rock. See, I can't drop the rock if it's not in my hand. If it's in my head, it's like, what rock? What does it look like? We'll describe it. We'll talk about the rock, but that's that sloughing, that relief, that guy that, I feel relieved because I don't have to carry that anymore, that I stole all these
Right.
people's money. And I'm paying for it. I'm being proactive, but whether I want to be or not, this is the way it's happening. And there's relief. And that story always struck me as significant. I didn't understand it when I first heard it, but now I have a better understanding of that. Yeah, yeah. I am free now to make another choice. Now, the choice comes from my subconscious. In the iceberg here, we got 1/10 conscious of my experiences, my memory. This is a memory. So my experiences, I can bring to mind things that happen. Not that I'm thinking about them all the time, but I can bring them to mind. 9/10 of all those experiences have been relegated into my subconscious. All those subconscious still active in my world at the moment to alert me to danger. This is where we hold like um, um, some glass, broken glass. Okay, so I cut my finger one time on broken glass. So now I see broken glass. I'm alerted through this I don't just. I have information. Um, One of the things that I react to was the unresolved trauma held in there. Unresolved trauma. What is it? An experience I had where I was happy and expressed something, and somebody says, "What do you got to be happy about?" It's like, oh, for me to survive and make connection, I had to figure out the only way. I didn't know how to figure it out, so I either shut down or got attacked or pouted. I did a reaction response, and that's what. So something happens in my current reality, and it's not. It doesn't have to be the same thing, but it feels the same. It resonates with that trauma is alerted, and I'm back into my reactive place, which I needed as a child uh, to survive. No longer necessary. Only the unresolved trauma rules my behavior for the purpose of survival. And that's if you smell something rancid, you back away. That's automatic. That's in us. Because rancid is dangerous. I'm using the analogy of smell. Um, I, I don't know if this is true, but a baby has two instinctive actions when they're babies: grip, they'll grip, and fear of falling. So nobody had to teach them about that. That's just, they just grip and they have this fear of falling. That's innate. So if I have a trauma that said in some way you're not enough or you're stupid, and I had to like comply or figure it out, and I couldn't, so I stuffed it and did a, like we call it, disassociate, go away, go out of my body so I don't feel that pain. That pain is still stuck in there. So if something in my current reality, this is bizarre, the example that came to my mind, I remember a partner saying to me at one point, "I love you," and I actually backed away, physically back, and it's like, what? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. To me now that makes sense. This is hurting me more than it hurts you. I'm only doing this because I love you. And it was some kind of form of either corporal punishment or being ostracized or being blamed. So I love you meant pain or being alone. And alone to an infant or toddler is a death sentence. So that alert, although appropriate for the baby, is really inappropriate for a 4-year-old man. When somebody walks out the door, they freak out and start screaming and yelling, you can't go, and blocking her. And then, they find themselves in jail for kidnapping, whatever. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. If somebody leaves me now, it's like, oh, I wonder where they're going. I wonder how long they'll be gone. Or they need their, I don't know, it had nothing to do with me. Well, unless of course it does, and I'm participating, but I know that. It's not like I'm triggered to get them to stop anymore. I was before. Don't you leave. Don't walk out that door. Don't you dare leave. I remember being in a shopping mall. It was actually artists. There was a bunch of booths in artists in Napa Valley somewhere. And I'm walking around, and then all of a sudden I notice she's not there. I'm freaking out. It's like, where did she go? Is she trying to ditch me? I mean, I went to, and then when I found her, I go, where did you go? It's like, dude, I was looking at a painting. It's like, and that's really all that was happening. But see, whatever happened to my little boy being left in the mall, getting lost, I don't know, being left in the, I don't know, it doesn't matter. I know that now that reaction, that inappropriate reaction to situation, not finding your partner thinking she's right next to you, is concerning. There's a concern, like a one, oh, I wonder where she went. But it's not like it's a 1 or 2, and I would go to 8, 9. I would. So this process of accountability.
Well, can I just jump in again for the newcomer? What you just described is really the heart of the issue. It's like when that happens to us as a little child,
Mm-hmm.
as a 4-year-old, we're in a crowd of people because I remember this happening to me in a crowded store or at a
Mm-hmm.
fair or in a park, whatever, and something happens and we look around and she's not there. There's like automatic upwelling of adrenaline and
Yep.
other stress hormones
Yep.
can be that cause trauma. So that's our little brains are getting traumatized by this flood of hormonal reaction, fear. That the word we call is fear, but in the body it's just this overwhelming sensation. And here's how the trauma can uh, remain, which is if I finally find my mom and she goes, "Where were you?"
Yep.
And
There you are.
rather than her saying, "Oh my God, I'm sorry," and essentially helping the fear go away,
Yep.
if if in that case I'm yelled at, I'm told I'll get in trouble if I ever do that again, that's going to just keep those stress levels high,
Yes. Yeah.
and that's how trauma gets formed in a way that remains unhealed. And as
Correct.
you said, that unhealed energy goes into our subconscious because little kids will forget about it at the level of consciousness by the next day. But next time something like that happens, because it's unhealed, it's going to show back up as if it's real.
Right.
And so
And
when
and
you
the
were describing that situation with your partner at the art show, yeah, the two adults know how to handle that, but that was a little kid's response because it had never been healed.
right. And the subconscious doesn't tell time.
Exactly.
It doesn't know that it happened before. It's happening now. Um, and the reaction speaks to the level of trauma. Oh,
Yeah.
so and that's where I was going to go. Owning the reaction as, oh my God, look what I just did. Nice deep breath. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, part of where I'm at is understanding that this result column, codependency, addiction, or avoidant behavior, is a direct result of unhealed complex post-traumatic stress. So the display of unresolved trauma this display right here, right there. It's open, right? Everybody see, but nobody knows that. Nobody puts that together, and they go to, oh wow, what's wrong with you? It's like, you're a mess. Get yourself together. Get a grip. Get your head
Right.
out. Well, all these things we say, which are reasonable, but have no weight. I haven't grabbed the rock
Right.
to
It's
drop it. When
it's
I
like
say the truth,
just say no.
yeah, just say no. No, I'm powerless. That's the rock. I'm powerless over. For me, it was alcohol, and my life is unmanageable. I put those two things together. Alcohol, I'm powerless. I can't stop drinking. And watch me. I'll try to stop, and my life is unmanageable. That's the rock. Okay, clearly. Now, in the context of this accountability tree, significant is that it's blame free, judgment free. Oh, this is an ugly rock. Ah, I don't want it. I put it down. I intend to be sober. I intend to come back to this meeting so I can learn what these people obviously know that I don't, because they know something I don't know. I want to be with these people because it's just a feeling tone of urge, desire to seek relief. And the good news is I found it. And
Well,
now that I've, go
well,
ahead.
we have to leave it there.
Oh, that's right. Uh,
So let's pick up next week and talk more about the proaction. So we spent a lot of
okay.
time analyzing the reaction here,
Yeah.
and the reason that we want to learn all this stuff is because we want to use this material in ourselves to create something proactive.
Yes.
So that's what the accountability practice to me has always been, John, is that I get to notice my reactions without blame or judgment, sit with them, commit myself to just being in the feelings there. And once I do that, I get to say what I want because there's an opening that occurs by being in the feeling of truth and reality. And for those of you who are newcomers, you're going to have to wait till next week to find out exactly how this works. Those of you who have been following us for a while, you could probably pass the quiz, but either way, um, just want to remind everybody that we do this work. John and I are talking in a dialogical way, sharing our thoughts, but this is all a practice, and the practice we do in our group settings, and we have 4 meetings a week that are on Zoom, and information about the days and times and the, excuse me, Zoom addresses will be at the end of the podcast. And so we invite anybody that has not experienced this to come join us and check it out. Also, the podcast here, they'll help us build audience for this information. So before we wrap it up, John, any last words?
I'm excited about our next conversation. The way out. Let's get to the solution.
All right. I agree with
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
You got it.